everybody's phone on silent.
Maybe just start with the injury update on Sia, where he is, and the last couple of weeks you've also now announced your team on the Monday. Is there reason for the change back to Thursday, maybe?
Yeah, I think the announcement only on Thursday is to respect New Zealand and knowing how tough this one is going to be. And yeah, on this one specifically, we think the less time they have to prepare for our team, the better. So it's not an arrogant thing, it's the respecting. And then I would say injuries are probably the only two doubtful players. Sosa's really looking well, doing good. I think Sia and Ox is, I wouldn't say they're injured still. I think it's niggles. If they get through today, probably might be good for us. Apart from that, yeah, not better.
I was just going to ask one, obviously you've got Jack here with you today. Just wondering why today? And I was just going to also ask, anyway, carry on.
Obviously we're not going to announce the team today, and then having a player here, having to answer questions, then people will obviously ask that player, and then we don't want to announce the team today. So yeah, my opinion is, the New Zealand's played 4 matches, and there's certainly been a narrative out there which I think is very technical around the speed of the game, the slowing down of the game, and I think Jaco's much better able to answer those questions because he helps us with all those technical things around laws and so on.
You have 3, top class fly halves, and we've seen them through the year. What is your thinking currently? You probably don't want to give away too much, but what is your thinking currently about how to use those 3?
Well, I'm going to pick 2 for this weekend, and that will be announced on Thursday. And I'm pretty sure during the next 4 weeks and ending in Baltimore, for a series is very long against New Zealand. As you see, both teams got injuries already, so I'm pretty sure all 3 will play.
Well, going back to the slowing of the game now, maybe Jaco wants to jump in here. Can you give us some technical detail if it's even the case? Whether the game is actually being slowed down?
No, look, obviously there was a shape of the game meeting beginning of the year where all the big issues, big ticket issues in the world is being discussed. And look, the things that come out of there is now we call it the key focus areas for referees. And that's basically the contract between refereeing and coaching. Coach your players to play this way, we'll try and referee this way, and then there's alignment on Mondays post-match. So I think the main thing is that over time, 5 games that we've played, we've not had one feedback that we slow down the game. Maybe they've played against teams that's in pre-season mode, it's like playing those Super Rugby warm-ups in January where you're playing Chaka, so maybe there's something there, but I mean, we've certainly not got negative feedback around it, and what we expect is to play in terms of those agreements with between referees and coaches. And yes, the law is very clear, 30 seconds from the moment the referee puts his foot out to make a mark, whether it's scrum or line out, not from the whistle, from when the foot's put out, there's 30 seconds to form, not get the ball in. We have to adhere to that, and we respect that, and we train to that.
So you can use 29 seconds?
100%. You can do that 30 seconds if you want.
Yeah, I think another frustrating thing is because we haven't been involved in these 4 matches. What you do up until that line out, you can pray if you want to, you can down on your knees, you can do, if you want to huddle, you can huddle. There's nothing in the law that says you can't huddle. So we've got 11 languages which we have to make sure that everybody understands the line out call. So you can huddle. Then when the referee gives the mark, then within 30 seconds you must form the line out. So there's no law that says you can't huddle.
Just on that, so even if you attempt a quick throw in, if the referee's made his mark and you still attempt a quick throw in, that's same as idle. The clock starts ticking. So that's up to you. However, the attacking team, if they're ready to play, they don't have to wait for you. That's different.
Jaco, just on that, it's clearly a narrative it's a bit of mind games that's being played here at the moment. I know when you were a referee, and you refereed them over 30 odd times, New Zealanders. So maybe some of the things that you look out for when New Zealand plays, or what you're seeing there, this narrative, and just your thoughts on that?
Oh look, yeah, been involved in, if you count the Springbok matches, been part of the management's post 40 type of matches. I've had the privilege of being in test match weeks with the All Blacks a lot. What a great team, what a good team when they get it right. The narratives about slowing down is, I've seen narratives about slowing down when it gets to set piece at altitude. Refereed many Super Rugby games here where teams that travels, slow the game down. It's the same with the Lions didn't want that, the Bulls didn't want that. But you can also slow the game down by continuously infringing at the breakdown or at the maul and break the game tempo there. Good thing is there's proper strong referees on these matches, and we are very clear on the guidelines. So it's up to the teams. Who's under pressure, they will probably try and slow the game down.
Simple as these two teams that are going into this series have two distinct styles, and that is that the All Blacks want to play at a fast pace and that you guys want to slow it down and make it an arm wrestle. Do you think it's as simple as that, or is the truth somewhere in the middle?
Well, I think there's always three truths, New Zealand's truth, your truth, the world's truth, and then what we believe, and then there's the truth, the waarheid. Now the truth, waarheid is Afrikaans word for truth. Now the waarheid is, our last two games against New Zealand in Auckland and in Wellington, people go and look at those games, were those slow games? I mean, New Zealand beat us in the first one against Auckland, protected their record there, and then we got a good one in the second one. So, I don't think we think there's a certain way how you win World Cups, and we think that's a grind. We think when you're under pressure on your attack, it's very tough to keep cohesion if the pressure is very big and you start fumbling a few balls, and then you must stuck to your guns. And we try to find the balance between that, and when games are really, really clutch and crunch, that you have a system that you can fall back onto, which protected the players sometimes from not always having the confidence to do things. But since Tony's been with us, we feel we're attacking it right, we feel we're doing not too badly. But we always want to keep I'm not talking about New Zealand's mindset, we want to keep the thing, listen, we've got something to fall back on when the pressure is really tough.
Just to follow that quickly, have you noticed under Dave, from what you've seen of the All Blacks on this tour and this year, that they are playing a different style of rugby, maybe even quicker than under Razor?
Oh, well, I think you can see on the social media, they advocating this high intensity running, multi-phase intensity. Nobody can keep up with us, and I mean, they're not hiding it. Everybody's talking about it. So yeah, I've seen that, and when you analyze that, it definitely shows that in the stats, and it shows on the scoreboards. If you watch the last 3 games they've played.
Just the legality of the shepherding that's happening when there's up and unders. And I can think Argentina just showed that they are rather using play to run after the ball going backwards rather than forwards. How do you negate that type of game plan, and what's the legalities around that?
Look, first the legality is you've got to be realistic and in a position to actually receive the ball. So if you're inaccurate, even if you try to get to the ball and you're inaccurate, you're penalisable because you're in front of the ball, you're offside, and you're blocking a player that can get there. So that's the legalities. It's the same for any other player. It doesn't change. However, you are at risk if you're not accurate. That's the first thing. How do you negate it? You got to beat them with speed. You got to get shoulder to shoulder and get yourselves into the contest.
I personally think they're very illegal who's doing it. I think it's very clever with the winger running back, competing. I mean, and not blocking. He's in a realistic position, and they catch a lot of those balls. I think it's a good tactic.
Jaco, Matthew Carley, the referee this weekend. What have the Springboks experiences been of him, of the way he refs? Is there anything that you've got to look out for? Has it been a positive experience, Matthew?
Yeah, I can actually say the same thing about let's take the first 3 referees that referees the next 3 weeks in South Africa. They got these appointments based on experience and based on what they've done in the last 12 months. They've incredibly strong characters. They not push around. So I think they get annoyed when we tell them how to referee the game because they've earned the right to be here and they know the game. What you know is you're going to have a firm referee. You know you're going to have someone that deals with the breakdown, and you know that's someone that's going to deal with anything that is negative or cynical. He's very strong with those, and he does not get influenced by a home anyway.
Rossi, just going back to the slowing down the ball thing, the narrative that is trying to be put out there. How do you feel about the person? Because I think since Tony's been here, I think it's 5.5 tries per game that the Springboks score every game. I might be out a little bit on that. And also, do you think it's part of we spoke earlier in Durban about the protocols and how they've changed talking to the refs. Do you think this is a new way of using an old tactic to get maybe into the refs' minds?
I think there's definitely frustration on the coaches that you can't have meetings with the referee if both teams don't agree, and it's now to a stage where you almost accept that both teams, coaches are not always going to agree for a pre-match meeting. I myself this week said, no, we don't need one. because it doesn't help now after they played 4 games and now we wanted to sort out things in 3 training sessions. We had to look at what they put on AMS, and that's a central system, and then they'll sort of learn from what the answers are from World Rugby. And I don't think it's a tactic. I think it's an obvious thing. If you want to get something out, you have to get it out here, because you can't really talk to the referee. Sometimes, there's small things which in normal referee meetings where you would alert the referees and you might do a midfield maul. Just be aware of that, know the law around that. Now you can't, because you have to have the meeting with the other coach. You can't say, listen, you're maybe doing a front peel in the line out. Maybe don't stand there when we do the front peel, because you might not see if it's obstruction or not. So I think teeing up the referees with things you want to do is very difficult, and I totally understand why the All Blacks voice some of their concerns. So if they genuinely believe we slow down the game, they can't stay in the meeting with us being president and we are arguing with them, we're not slowing it down. So it's a very natural thing to do it in the media now, because the protocols is definitely, I feel, and I know a lot of international coaches feel that way. It's very clear what you must do, what you can't do. It's in place, and we understand that it's there. I don't understand why it's like that. But yes, I think there's definitely now a gap between coaches, scrum coaches, and referees, and small little technical things and then you voice your opinion in the media. That's the only option.